Okay, so let's get started. Can you hear me okay? So today's topic is UI adapters. Among the UI topics, I would say this is probably the most important topic. So slide number 3 is the topics. We are going to talk about the concept of adapter view class and also adapter class. And we'll talk about a bit more in detail in terms of what adapter view is supposed to do. And then we'll talk about a special activity called the list activity and related classes called the list view and list adapter. And there are a few other subclasses of adapter view class which are spinner and gallery. So we'll talk about these things. So let's move on to adapter view and adapter. So what is an adapter view class? Adapter view class is a view group class, meaning it is a container of view objects. It is a special kind of container in the sense that it contains a list of items. So in that sense, this is a little bit different from the linear layout view group class. Now, typically, you're going to use in your application subclasses of adapter view class instead of using it directly. And in fact, you are going to use the following three subclasses of adapter view class most frequently. So list view, that's probably the most frequently used adapter view class, and the spinner and gallery. We'll actually talk about list view the most, and then we'll talk about spinner and gallery. Now, adapter view class access the data through adapter object. So far what we have seen is that you are going to actually see linear layout view group is actually having direct access to, let's say, view components, the data and associated with it. However, the adapter view class access the data through what is called the adapter object. So we'll talk about this one in a bit more detail, so don't worry about it if you don't understand what I'm talking about. So just for now, remember that adapter view, when it's trying to get data for each item that is trying to display, it actually depends on adapter class. So this is a little bit of repeat of what I just said. An adapter object is acting as a bridge between adapter view object and underlying data for that view. So as I said before, adapter view class, like a list view and gallery and things like that, they are actually depending on special adapter class for getting data that gets displayed. Okay, so we'll see examples of this code in a few minutes, so you will have a better understanding. So it is the adapter object that access the data items, not the adapter view class. Okay. Another thing that adapter class does is it's responsible for making a view for each item in the data set. Okay, so when you in fact create adapter object, you're going to specify the layout for each item. The types of adapters, so the array adapter and cursor adapter. So array adapter is adapter that access the data in the form of array object. Cursor adapter is an adapter object that access the data in the database. And there are a few more, and in fact you can create your own adapter class yourself. Okay. So far I know that it's a bit too abstractive, and you probably don't have the comfortable feeling in terms of understanding of these things. So don't worry about it. Just stay with me a bit. So adapter class. So all the adapter class is an extension of base adapter class, and list adapter is in fact the extension of base adapter, and spin adapter is also extension of base adapter. the array adapter and cursor adapters are the subclasses of base adapter, and again you can create custom adapter by extending base adapter class. Okay, now so we talked about concept of adapter view class, and then we talk about the concept of adapter. Okay, so as long as you understand adapter is the one that is playing the role of accessing the data on behalf of adapter view class, that's all I want you to remember for now. Okay, so let's talk about the adapter view a bit more detail. Okay, so two main responsibilities of adapter view. So it's filling the layout of the data. So it receives the data again through the help of adapter. And you're also responsible for handling user selection. So if a user select an item in the list, some action needs to be performed. Okay. So filling the layout of data, so basically inserting the data into the layout by binding adapter view class to an adapter. Okay. So I'm going to actually move ahead to the code. Okay. So hopefully you will have a better understanding in terms of how things work. Okay, so this is actually handling user selection. So when an item is selected in the list view, of course you have to handle that event. So basically you are going to have on item click listener, okay, object. So basically, yeah, so you're going to have on item click listener, and then you provide implementation of on item click method, and then you are going to associate you're going to actually call set on item click listener, and then you're going to actually provide on item click listener object. Okay. Alright, so we are going to actually get into a bit more the coding, so you'll have a better understanding. So if you don't understand what I have talked about so far, that's fine. Okay, so we'll digest each thing that we talked about so far, actually looking at the code. Okay, so let's talk about the list view. So typically this is the list view we're talking about. I'm sure you have seen this one before, right? Okay. So it is in the form of list items. This is a list view, and list view has item like this. Okay. Okay, so as I said before, adapter view class has subclasses, and examples of subclasses are list view, gallery, and things like that. So let's say list view is a child class of adapter view class. So you don't actually use adapter view class directly. Instead, you're going to use list view class. Okay. So as you can see, it shows the items in the vertically scrolling list. So you can actually scroll things out. Now, list view class, okay, which is adapter view class, extension of adapter view class, depends on an adapter object that actually getting the data. Okay, so we'll actually see how that is done in a few minutes. Now, in terms of creating activity class, you have two choices. You can extend activity class, or you can extend what is called the list activity class. So list activity is a utility class that contains list view object. So if you are extending activity class directly, you have to in fact create list view object yourself from the resource file, layout resource file, just like any the view object. That just like you create any view object using find view by ID method. And so let's actually take a look at each of these options. Okay. So I created hello list view class by extending activity. So this is option 1. So instead of extending list activity, I'm extending activity class. Okay. So I am going to find the list view object by calling find view by ID method. So this method we have seen before many times. And then you provide an ID of list view. Okay, so what you have back, what you got back is list view object. And then what we have done, then what we are going to do is we create array adapter object. So as I said before, adapter object is the one that has an access to the data. Okay, so in this case we create array adapter object, and it actually this is actually array the object country is an array object, and this is layout per item. Okay, so as I said before, adapter object has two responsibilities. One is providing the data, and the other one is providing the layout for each item. Okay, and then this is a context object. So once we got the array adapter object, which knows how to access this countries array, and then all we have to do is basically setting adapter, passing that adapter object. So this is a list view, and then we pass the adapter object. So this is what I mean, that the list view object depends on adapter object for accessing the data. So list view does not access the array directly. Instead, it's going to ask array adapter object to get the data, in this case countries. Okay, so we'll actually see a full listing in the hands-on lab. Okay. Okay, so this is the list view layout. So this is the layout for the full the screen. So what I'm talking about is the whole screen. Okay, so it is linear layout, and then we have a list view component. Okay, so this list view is a view object that we have retrieved by using find view by ID. Okay, so this is nothing new, right? We have seen this one before. This is the way that we get a reference to a particular view object. Okay, so we get the list view object, and then we create the adapter object, and then we set that adapter object to the list view object. Okay, all right. Okay, so now in the list view, you have to provide a layout for the whole screen, which we just have seen in the previous slide. Then you also have to provide layout for each item. Okay, so in this case, this item, each item has its own layout, and that is in the form of text view. Okay, so text size in this case 16 DSP, and that is the text size of this. So you can see we have a layout for the whole screen, and then we have a layout for each item. Now the layout of each item is actually passed when you create the adapter object. Okay, all right. So this is option 1. So you are basically extending activity class directly. Okay, now option 2 is, instead of extending activity class, you are going to extend list activity class. So list activity is utility class, and it does provide some value. Okay, so it's a utility class specifically designed for displaying a list of items by binding to a data source such as array or cursor, and exposes event handlers when the user selects an item. So you can think of list activity as an extension of activity class itself, and then it actually adds some values. And the values we are talking about is this. It creates list view object itself. Okay, so meaning this is what I meant. List activity hosts the list view object. Okay, in fact, when the list activity object gets created, it will create the list view object for you in its constructor. Okay, so you don't have to create list view object yourself if you are extending list activity. Okay, so we'll see a code in the following slide. But you still have to provide adapter. Okay, so you still have to provide adapter object. Another thing it does for you is it will provide a default layout, okay, for the whole screen. Okay, so you don't have to provide the layout for the whole screen. However, you still have to provide the layout for item. Okay, so it does provide the two extra values. One is again creating list view object for you, and it does provide the default layout for the whole screen. Okay, so this is an example of extending list activity instead of activity. Okay, so this is the array object I was talking about. So this code was omitted in the previous slide, but it's still there. So this is the array object. Country is an array object. Okay. Now here we create the array object. I'm sorry, the adapter object. Okay, so this is the same code that you have seen. You still have to create array object by passing layout for an item, and you still have to pass the data, which is in the form of array object in this case. That's the reason we call this guy as array adapter. Okay. Now all you have to do at this point is calling set list adapter, passing array adapter. Okay, so you can see we did not have to call find view by ID method to get the list view object. Okay, because list view object is already created for us. Okay, so if you compare this code again with this, we didn't have to do this because list view object is already created for us. Okay, through the constructor of list activity class. Okay, but the rest of the code is the same. Okay, all right, let's move forward. Okay, I'm going to take a look at the hands-on lab first, to give you a big picture. So instead of going to the spinner, let's actually take a look at the first few exercises. Okay, so first few exercises, exercise 1A is creating list view from hard-coded string array object. This is the example we have seen in the slide, and here we are actually using now list activity instead of activity. And exercise 2 is now we are adding the item click event handler, and exercise 3, instead of providing hard-coded array object, we can get the array from XML resource. Okay, so let's take a look at each of this in a bit more detail. Okay, so this is when you run this application. So if you import this project, the adapter list view string array hard-coded, and this is what you get. Okay, all right, so let's see the code. Oh, so this is the case that we are in fact extending list activity class. Okay, so we call the activity class as hello list view, and then we are extending list activity. Okay, and this is hard-coded array object, set of countries. Okay, so array of strings. Okay, and then here what we have to do is we create array adapter object. Okay, passing the array object, countries array object, and then layout for an item, each list item. Okay, so once you got array adapter object, then you're going to call set list adapter method, and this set list adapter method is actually from list activity class. Okay, passing that array object. All right, so when you run that application, and here the only layout that you have to provide is again layout for an item, because the list activity provides the layout for the whole screen as a default. Okay, so only thing we have to provide is layout for list item. Okay, so this is layout for list item, and then we provide this code, and that's pretty much it. You have to that's pretty much what you have to do. Now 1.4, we are going to actually change a property of list item, see how that impact the application. So here we are going to change the background color of list item to yellow. Okay, like this. and this is the color resource file. And then when you run the application, now each item will follow the layout for each the item layout, the resource file that we just changed. Okay, so each item will be changed to yellow, color yellow. Does that make sense? Okay. I'm gonna give you a chance to ask questions after I've done the exercise 2, 3, and up to 3. Yeah, these are all list view related exercises. Okay, so exercise 2 is, now we are still using list activity, and we are still getting the array object from hard-coded array object. So meaning we create the array adapter object from a hard-coded string array object. Okay. Okay, so in this case, the change we make in this exercise is we like to add event handler, meaning if a user select one of these items, we want to do something, right? So in this case, we are just displaying a toast message that some country has been selected. Okay, nothing really significant, but shows how the event handler can be associated with each item. Okay, so the code is exactly the same, except that now we are adding this code. Okay, so what we have to do is now we have to actually get the list view object. So you can call get list view. So again, this is a method from list activity class. So if you want to access list view object, then you call get list view method, and then you are going to associate on item click listener object by calling set on item click listener. Okay, so when list item is clicked, this method gets invoked, and we are basically displaying toast message. Okay, so it will give you the view object that gets clicked, meaning particular item is a view object, right? So we are going to cast to text view. Okay, so that's how we cast to, and then we get the text value. And so whatever country that was selected will be returned here. Okay, and then we say is it selected. Okay. Okay, so here we are going to make a small modification. So instead of just displaying a toast message, we want to access a website. Okay. So in this case, it's going to create what is called the intent object. We haven't learned the concept of intent object yet, but intent is basically a system message indicating the intention that you want to perform. For example, starting a new activity. So here you create intent object indicating that you want to access a particular website like this, and then you call what is called the start activity. So this is a way that you can start a new activity by passing intent object. Okay, so for now, don't worry about if you don't understand these 5 lines of code. We are going to learn this one in detail, but for now what we are trying to do is when list item is selected, basically instead of displaying a toast message, we want to go to a particular website. In this case, we want to go the wiki page of Argentina. Okay, and now whenever you need to access the internet, you have to give a permission. So this is a permission that you have to specify in Android manifest.xml file. Okay, so now when you click Argentina, okay, then it's going to go to wiki page of Argentina. Okay. Exercise 3 is the list view and list activity. So here we are going to get the string array from the resource file rather than array object, hard-coded array object. Okay, so here we are going to create a country array object from the array resource. So basically you call get resources and then get string array, and then you provide an ID of that array. So the array is another type of resource. Okay, so if you go to strings.xml file, under resources, you can specify an array of strings. Okay, and then you can access it. All right, I thought I actually have an example of the extending. So this is a list activity case, and I thought I have a case of. Oh, okay, so this is the example I was looking for. So this is the option 1, and the one that we saw is option 2. So here we are creating list view object from the activity class. So we are directly extending activity class. Okay, and here we still have countries as hard-coded array object. Now here, this is something that you have to do. So you have to get a reference of list view object by calling find view by ID. Okay, and then you are going to create the array adapter object, and then you're going to call set adapter method of the list view and passing array adapter object. Okay, so you see the difference between this version, which is extending activity directly, and the next version is we are extending list activity. Okay, all right, so this is the test for you guys. So when you use list activity instead of activity, meaning your activity extends list activity, what are the two advantages? So this is a question for you. So please answer the question. Or if you don't, feel free to ask any questions. Good. So you do not need to define your own list view in the layout. That is correct. Meaning you don't have to create the list view object yourself, because it's created for you. Good. And the second advantage is you don't have to provide layout for the whole screen, because that's again provided. Excellent. Any questions on list view and an adapter? So this is something you are going to use a lot, okay, in your Android application. So I want you to really understand this. Okay, so let's move on to the presentation. Okay, so if you understand, let's say, the list view, Spinner works exactly the same. Okay, so Spinner is another example of which class? Yeah, so this is the quiz. What class Spinner and the list view are extending? What is a parent class? Anybody? Not base adapter. Base adapter is the class that you can use for creating custom adapter, the object. I was asking what is the parent class Spinner or list view class extends? Good, adapter view. So there are two different things that you have to remember. One is adapter view class, and the other one is the adapter class. So role of adapter is basically it provides access to the data. Okay, and the list view classes such as the Spinner and the adapter view classes such as a list view and Spinner and gallery, they depend on adapter object for accessing the data. They don't directly access the data themselves. Instead, they use adapter object in the middle for getting the data. Okay, so let's move on. So once you have a reasonably good idea on list view and adapter, then spinner works pretty much the same. Okay, so again, it is a child class of adapter view class. Okay, just like a list view is a child class of adapter view class, as we just talked about a few seconds ago. The UI of spinner is that it is actually displaying one child at a time and lets the user pick among them. And again, the items in the spinner has to come from through the adapter. Okay. And however, there is no special spinner activity class provided by Android, meaning you have to create spinner object yourself. Okay, just like option 1 we talked about. Okay, so this is the code. So we have our activity class called hello spinner, and since there is no spinner activity, we are going to extend activity directly. Because we are extending activity class directly, we have to get reference to spinner object by calling find view by ID and then provide spinner, the view object's ID that we have defined in the layout file, which we are going to see in a few seconds. And then the rest of it is exactly the same. You basically have to create array adapter object. Okay? And this is what? This is the array object, right? And this is layout for an item. Now you can see this is Android provided layout for each item because it's starting from android.all.layout simple spinner item. Okay, and then we basically set the adapter object. Okay, and then we are going to set the on item selected listener. Okay, and this one is for setting the drop down, okay, item for the spinner. Okay, and so this is the layout of spinner. Okay, all right, so let's see the hands-on lab. Spinner. So this is the drop-down menu. Okay, so when you click this one, you will see drop-down menu. So we have seen that the layout right in the code, and this is what you see. Okay, so again, if you select one of these, we are basically just displaying a toast message. Okay. Okay, so this is the code that we have seen in the presentation. So we extend the activity class directly. So we create the spinner object by calling find view by ID. Okay, providing the ID of spinner that we defined in here. Okay, so this is the symbolic ID of the spinner. So by calling find view by ID, we are getting a reference to the spinner object. Okay, so spinner object gets created by the platform, and we are getting the spinner object. And again, we provide array resource, the file, and then we provide Android provided spinner item layout, and then this is the drop down layout. Okay, and then we set the adapter. And then we also provided on click the on item selected listener object. Okay, so this is the on item select listener object. Basically, we provide a toast message. We display toast message. Question? So relatively straightforward, I hope. Question on spinner? It works pretty much the same as the list view, right? Okay, so let's move on to gallery. Again, gallery works exactly the same. So gallery is third example of an extension of a child class of adapter view class. Okay. Okay, so gallery works like this. Okay, so when you click this one, it just when you click this one, it just moved in the middle. Okay, so again, it's a child class of adapter view class, and a view that shows item in a center locked horizontally scrolling list. Okay, so that's gallery. Okay, so it works exactly like spinner. So here we have our activity class called hello gallery extends activity. So we get the gallery object by calling find view by ID and then provide the ID of gallery view object that we have defined in the layout file, and then we set the adapter. So here, this is an example of the custom adapter that we created. Okay, so we'll take a look at this source code in the hands-on lab. So instead of using built-in adapter such as array adapter and cursor adapter, so we haven't talked about the cursor adapter in detail, but the cursor adapter is getting data from a database. Array adapter is getting data from array object, okay, or array resource. So here we are providing our own adapter object. So this is a custom adapter object, okay? And then we are basically, we also set the on item click listener object, and we are just displaying those message. Okay, so we have gallery layout. Okay, so let's see the gallery hands-on lab. So when you click this one, whenever you click anything, it actually moves into the middle, and then it will increment the counter. So if you click this one, it moves to the middle, and then again counter is incremented. Okay. Okay, so the code is pretty much the same. So hello gallery extends activity. Okay, so we get the gallery object by calling find view by ID, providing view ID of gallery, and then we set the adapter, providing our own custom adapter object. Okay, and then we provide on item click listener. Okay, now let's take a look at this custom adapter. So what is the adapter supposed to return? Adapter is supposed to return basically, so adapter is supposed to provide get view method. Okay, so every adapter, whether it is in fact the list adapter or just I'm sorry, the array adapter or the cursor adapter, all the adapter has to provide get view method. So in this case, as a custom adapter class, we have to do is we have to overwrite this get view method. Okay, so in this case, what it does is that it basically gets something and then return a view object, and that view object will be used, okay, by the adapter view class to display it. Okay, so in this case, what we are returning is image view. Okay, so we are going to create the image view, and then we set the image resource. So in our case, image resource is coming from the array object of this. Okay, so we have this integer array, and it's basically providing an ID of drawable object, which is PNG file. Okay, so by providing this integer value, we can set the image resource, and then we can set the layout parameters, scale type, and background, and things like that. And then we are going to return just image view object, and this image view object will be used by the in this case the gallery adaptive view object to display things here. So this is all coming from our custom image adapter object. Okay. Okay, so the modification that we want to do is we are going to set the scale type to the center inside. So so you can see this picture is now center the inside. Okay. Okay, question from let's see, from Pav. I would like to read all images from memory stick and giving them input to image adapter rather than hard code image ID. So how can I implement this? Excellent question. So we are going to learn how to read storage later on. Okay, so we have a topic of storage, and we also have a topic of database. Okay, so we will learn how to do those things, and once you know how to do those things, it's a matter of actually creating the array from it. Okay, so we'll talk about it in that topic, and it is definitely possible. Okay, moving forward. So another, let's say, the subclass type of adaptive view class is grid view. Okay, so what we have, so quiz for you guys, what 3 subclasses that we have learned of adaptive view class? What are the 3 the examples of adaptive view subclasses? This is a question for you. List view, excellent. And spinner, good. And last one is gallery. Good, excellent. Now grid view is another one. Okay, so grid view works like this. So here, whenever we click one, again we just display a toast message, the index. And it works pretty much the same. So we get the grid view object by calling find view by ID, and here again we are providing our own custom adapter object. This is the same code that we have seen in previous case. Okay, and then rest of it works pretty much the same. Okay, so this is in here we actually have array image adapter as a separate class. Okay, in previous example we have image adapter in the same the source file. Okay, but idea is again we pass back the view object. Okay, all right, and this is the array. Okay, moving forward. Now exercise 7 is the creating list view from cursor, the adapter object, rather than the array adapter object. So far what we have seen is the data is coming from, let's say, array. Okay, now another popular place the data could come from database. Okay, and as Pav was talking about, you can certainly get this data from your local storage, or they could come from web services. Okay, so those are all different types of sources of the data. So here cursor adapter is getting data from a database. So we haven't learned how to use database yet. Okay, so the code that we are going to see might not be something that you feel comfortable, but we'll talk about it in detail later on. So when you run this application, we are basically displaying the name of the country and the capital city. Okay, so when you select one of this, it will have again toast message. Now this data are coming from database. Okay, so Android comes with a built-in database called SQLite. Okay, which is a very popular embedded database. Okay, so it comes with it. Okay, so let's see the code. So here we are using list activity. Okay, so these are the hard-coded, let's say, name of the table, name of the database, and this is the creating create table SQL. So you can see create table if not exist, name of the table name, and things like that. So these are SQL. And this is again SQL for deleting table. Okay. All right. So, I'm not going to talk about in detail in terms of how to use this database, because we are going to talk about this database topic in detail later on. But for now, I want you to just focus on this line. So once you create a database and once you create a table, so here we basically add few rows to the table. Okay, so we have the few rows that contains the name of the country and the name of the city. So this is the column, and this is the first column, second column. The name of the country is the first column, and name of the city is the second column, and we have added just the 3 rows. So now, in order to access a database, basically you are going to use query method of your database, the object, okay, and then you basically provide the table name, and then these are the set of columns that you are interested, and then you can set the group by, where clause and all that stuff. Okay, so let's assume that you have performed the query operation, then it will return the result set, right? Set of rows. That set of rows will be captured in the form of cursor object. Okay, so this is a standard JDBC API in a sense, right? So, this is when you perform query operation in JDBC, you get cursor object. Okay, and here, when you create the adapter object, instead of string array object, now I'm passing cursor object. Okay, now one more thing here that is different from our previous code is you can actually provide the names of the columns and names, and then you're going to provide a layout of each item. So in this case, in this list view, we are not just displaying one item, right? So it does provide the major item and the sub item, major item, sub item. So this is another layout format of an item. Okay, so in this case, we are basically using Android provide. So this is Android provided the item layout format. Okay, so it's both of them are text view. Okay, and then we set the adapter object. Okay, all right. Okay, so question from Pav. Is this RDML database? You are asking whether this is a relational database. The answer is yes. Okay, so you actually correct. RDBMS, yeah, so relational database. So next question is, can I write normal SQL statement? Yes, you can actually write the all SQLite SQL statement, and they are pretty similar to regular SQL statements. Okay, so that is it. The exercise 8, which I haven't talked about in the presentation, is expandable list. Okay, so when you run this application, you have a list of items like this, and then you can expand it. Okay, so when you expand it, then you have another set of list items. Okay, so you can see this is sort of a nested version of the list view. Okay. Okay, so let's see the code. So there is a special utility class called the expandable list activity. So I'm creating my own the activity class called expandable list 1, and then it's expanding. It's extending, creating a sub class from the expandable list activity. So this is from Android. Okay. All right. Another question from Pav. Can I access remote database? The answer is no. Okay, so database that comes with the Android is built in. Okay, so you cannot perform SQL over the net to, let's say, another remote database. Okay, let's see. So in terms of accessing, external resources, typically you are going to use web services. Okay, so. All right, so let's move back to expandable list activity. Okay, So here we created our own adapter object, then we set the adapter, and then here you can call register for context menu, and by providing expandable list view object. So this is a way that you can set the context menu, okay, on the list. Okay. All right. Now, in terms of on context item selected, so this is the way that we actually create a context menu, right? Okay. So this is something that we have learned before, and so when something is selected, we can check whether that is in fact a child or a group. And depending on whether it's a child or group, we display different message. You know, for example, if it is a child, then we can find that the group information and child position information. Okay, and then we display, oh, you are a child of second group or something. If you select the group, then it's going to get the group position, and then we just display, you actually click the particular group. And here, this is our own adapter object. Okay, so again, this is again example of creating your custom adapter. It's not array adapter, it's not a cursor adapter, and this is the adapter that I created, extending base expandable list adapter. Okay, so we have the array of groups and array of children. Okay, and then here we get the child view, and then we have a group view. Okay, so you know it will return text view based on the position. Okay. All right. That is it. Yeah. So here we just change the child view, the method, and it's going to return text view object. And here we set the gravity to the center, so you can see this is actually gravitized to the center. Okay, so that's it for today's presentation. And again, this is one of the important concepts in UI. So you're going to use list view a lot, okay, and the possibly gallery and spinner and grid view as other forms of presenting information on the Android, the UI. Okay, question. Let me